G'day everyone. I thought I'd attempt a bit of a video log of sorts, um, looking at a project that I'm just starting. What you can see in front of you are all metal, all Footsore miniatures. They are all for an Irish Warband, I believe for Saga, for a customer in New Zealand. All Irish, apart from there are some Vikings in there. There's what, one, two, three, four there, and there's three back here as well. So what I've been doing is just cleaning them up, which takes quite a long time. I think it's taken me best part of a couple of days to actually get them all clean, filing off as much as I can of any seam lines or flash or that sort of thing, and drilling and gluing in parts. Now they are on MDF bases that the customer supplied. They're the same sort of bases I use myself. Actually, I like this sort of 1.8 to 2 mil thick. The only ones that aren't glued down is this big. There's a big command stand over here, and the reason for that is that, so it's got, is that Brian Baru there? The only one that's actually glued down is this guy. Now my thought process is for that is if I put that and that on there, it's just going to make, I mean, it's possible I could paint with them all three on there, but I'm just making my own life harder, because getting in around past with the paintbrush at stuff at the back, like in the back of this guy that's seated and stuff, is going to be problematic. So I've just sort of, that's approximately how I'm thinking of posing them. Him in the center, these either side of him and slightly to the rear, because he's the king. So yeah, it'll be something like that. So I'll put these on painting stands, and then they'll get glued to this later. And yeah, so that's stage number one of the project. I'll just give you a bit of a pan along. So you've got lots of slingers, and there is a priest back there. Now he did have a different sword, but by the time I received it, when I tried to straighten it out, it snapped off the top of the hand. So basically I drilled it out, and in my spares box I had another sword, so I just put a new sword in that fortunately I had there. So that happens sometimes, unfortunately. And some weapons, at the point where they join to the figure, there's such a thin joining point that you can't really drill it out and pin it. So sometimes it's just better to drill out the whole hand and replace the weapon if you can. Lots of slingers, lots of guys with javelins, very lightly armed. You've got, there's 4 mounted guys there. I guess they're mounted Hearthguard. I'm not sure of the list for the Irish. I've got the book here somewhere. I could probably look it out, but so yeah, some Irish Hearthguardy types as well, and some leader characters. He's a big fella. So yeah, that should be interesting to paint. I don't think I have painted a few Irish before, but don't think I've done a whole warband. Now there are, he has supplied me with some shield decals for these little shields that they have. They have these sort of smaller shields. So, but some of the shields have got wood grain on them, so sort of sculpted in, so I'm not sure how that's going to go with putting the decals over the top. I'll have to see. So yeah, the next stage is I'll probably go and have some lunch, and then the rest of my afternoon will be spent putting sand, PVA and sand on them to try and get some basing stuff on there. So yeah, I might show you that when I'm done. It's very basic, very straightforward. Just fine sand and PVA. All right, guys. We'll leave it there for the moment, and hopefully I'll be back with some more. Bye. Okay, guys. Just a real quick one. This is teaching Granny to suck eggs, but just in case you were wondering, this is the stuff I use for basing my miniatures most of the time. It's just some fine sand. You see, really quite fine. Sifted. I have containers with larger bits if I want to go that way to create a different sort of look. I use, in Australia, we have Selly's Aquadeer anterior wood glue. That's what I used. I use that undiluted as a blob. Put that sort of stuff on my dry palette, and I use a really scabby little brush, just blob it on, and then I'm gonna dunk it in there in the sand container. I just helps to sort of spoon over the base, because otherwise if I put it in and kind of flick it and twist, sometimes I get like a ridge of sand instead of like an even covering. I find I get a more even covering with the spoon. Anyway, I'm going to go and do that very basic but a task that will take some time, but it needs to be done, and maybe I'll come back and show you when they've all got sand on them. The other two guys I put up there on their painting handles, because the next step for them is undercoat. I'm not gluing them onto their big base yet. So all right, catch you later. Okay, all the bases have had basing grit put on them now. I've got as many as I can up on the stands. There we go. Some are more dry than others, so I'll start on the undercoating the guys that are on the stands, because they're more thoroughly dry, and hopefully by the time I've finished those guys, the other ones will be dry enough to handle. Okay, so for undercoating, let's see if I can get this in shot. I'm doing this without a tripod. Okay, this is the stuff I use for undercoating. It's an Australian paint brand, Derivan Matisse, and this is from their they call it background colors. It's designed for sealing, helping to seal canvases or boards and stuff before painting. It is a kind of gesso or gesso, like it says coloured gesso, but it is what they call a low tooth one, in that it's a very fine grain. So unlike, say, more perhaps a coarser gesso, which has more what they call tooth on it, and the tooth is what helps the paint to stick. It's basically those micro particles that sort of, you can't really see them a lot of the time, but they allow what you put on top to grip to the surface, and at the same time this paint grips to the surface, whether it's metal or plastic or whatever. Has something in it that helps it stick a lot better than normal paint, as well as, like I say, providing a tooth, a grippiness for the paint layers. And it, like other gessos or gessos, it shrinks really well upon drying, and and there's no loss of detail, unless you were to go completely mental and put a giant blob on it, but you're not going to do that, not on purpose anyway. The colour that I've used for years now is this one called Gumtree Green, and it is I like it. It's a neutral kind of colour. It's not white, but it dries quite light. It says green, but it's a very grey green. It's not a greeny green. It's very much toward the grey end of things. It's just a nice, I like it as a nice neutral ground to then go and put other colours on top of. So, I use big fat brush. It's a cheap plastic handle, soft but springy. You see it's a bit splayed. Good for sort of stabbing in, getting into all those parts on the miniature as much as possible. And so yeah, they get all undercoated by hand using this stuff. I've nearly run out of this pot, but I've got a brand new pot in the wings. Okay, I'm sure similar products are available in other countries. I don't know if Derivan Matisse products are, I know they're sold in New Zealand as well as Australia, but outside of that I couldn't tell you. Okay guys, so maybe I'll come back and show you when they're undercoated. Alright, bye for now. Righto, got them all undercoated now. So they're kind of drying off. There we go, around the corner. There's some of my Sudanese down there. They had to be taken off their stands so I could use them for this. I'll pop them back on later. And there's even more down there. Oh, yep, there's the cavalry, and there's a bunch more guys down there. Okay. Next stage is this. This is the Dale Aroni FW Acrylic Artists Ink. This color is called Red Earth. Now, what I do with this is I'll probably go and take an early lunch, give these guys a little bit longer time to dry, cure, and then I will block in the flesh on all of them using this. Gets a bit thinned down a little bit, not too much. It's pretty good as it is. It's got a sort of an eyedropper arrangement there, so I just put it on here on this palette. The stuff like this, I don't use it in the wet palette. Just use regular paint on the wet palette. So yeah, metallics, the undercoat stuff, inks, washes tend to go on here. Occasionally I use it for other stuff too, but yeah, for my main painting I use the wet palette, and I might show you that later. But I won't bore you by showing you actually, me painting the red earth on all the skin of these guys. But it's like the underpainting, the undercolor that I start with, and then that also gets some of like the wash that goes all over the figure later. So it's got, even before I put my flesh triad on, it's kind of like got some decent sort of undercolor sort of to the flesh, like some pre-shading and pre-coloring that I can sort of build upon. All right, so that's what comes next for all of them. And hopefully I'll remember to show you the next step. I might stop here and upload this so the videos aren't too long. All right, bye for now. Okay, done the flesh wash on all these figures. Takes a while. I used the number 7 synthetic round to do them. Let's do a quick flyby of them all. Yeah. Yeah, so it does take a while, but it's got all that blocked in anyway, for starters. The next thing I'll do, I'll probably do it tomorrow now, because it takes a while when you're trying to work on this many at once. And I'm only doing this really large group for some of these initial colors, and then I'm going to break it down into smaller groupings, because you know, it just gets a bit overwhelming otherwise. And there's a lot of different sort of troop types with the, you know, I just want to break them down, usually into groups of about, typically I work in groups of about 8. So then I'll get the basics on all these guys, things that they have in common, and then I'll put most of them in the drawer and just sort of leave out 8 at a time, I guess. Do it that way. But the next thing that I use, that I'll go, certainly one of the next things I'll be doing is putting Panzer Ace's, Vallejo Panzer Ace's new wood on the backs of the shields, on the spears, and all that sort of stuff. Also, the shoes will be getting some ink as well, some of this, a different colour of this Daily Round EFW. But we'll show you that when we get to that stage. Okay guys, I'll probably stop here and upload what I've done so far. See ya.